Shalom my friends, and welcome to me kvetching about a game where I'll be talking about things I like, things I don't like, and possible ways of improving upon them. Today's game is going to be Natural Selection 2 by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, the same guys who brought you the original Natural Selection for Half-Life. And now they've finally released a sequel, and what a sequel it is. They take a lot of what made the first one great and made it better, more recent, and I love the fact that they've done so. Let me start by telling you some of the things that I really like. Let's head to the options menu. Ignore the FPS counter. Fraps locks you to the nearest to 60 FPS, unfortunately. So typically I run at 120 FPS, so that works great. They have a fairly good amount of graphics options, and the game looks amazing, I can assure you of that. And so they give you a lot of good options. It runs rather well. They even built their own engine to run this game, which is rather interesting, I might say, because they could have simply used a source engine, but they went nuts to that. We're going to create our own. That's good. It shows, compassion for their work. Unfortunately, there are some some performance issues regarding this engine of theirs. Namely, I have a fairly powerful computer, and the game looks great, but not, oh my god, astounding. And I seem to encounter frame rate drops, particularly near the end of a match. The longer the game runs on, the more FPS I seem to lose, and I've yet to really figure out any real reason why. And I also do not like, if you see here, the FOV. They have FOV, an FOV slider. That's great. I love that. Awesome. I do not like the fact, what number? What does it represent? How much FPS, or what is the FOV as you move it up? They need to change this to a counter to go with the slider so you know what the FOV actually is. Because I play my FPS games at about 90, 100 FOV, and that's typically what I tend to play to keep myself happy. I can go about 70, 80, but 90 to 100 is what I prefer. So I figured they could change that a bit, make it a bit easier to know what the FOV actually is. And when it comes to maps, the maps in this game are well designed. They seem to offer a significant balance between both the Marines and the aliens, because the aliens have vents that they can crawl through to get around the map, while Marines obviously don't have that ability unless they have jetpacks, really. But they only have 6 maps. That I do not like, but what I do like is, as you're probably looking right here, they have the mods. They support modding, and it's great that they do, because by supporting mods, they allow people to create their own maps, which is both a boon and a bane. Because a lot of these maps that I've played from other people aren't very good. They are either entirely one-sided, such as big open areas with no places to hide for aliens, or incredibly tightly enclosed, so it's way too easy for aliens to ambush. But what you're going to do? What I also don't like is the mods well, let me show you. They allow you to change skins for the aliens. That is not a very good thing, because a lot of the skins that I've noticed make aliens incredibly easy to see, especially as you saw there, the Lurk and the Skulk. Changing the skins, while all well and good, as it really only affects you, it can make things such as aliens incredibly easy to see, even in complete darkness, which makes finding them and shooting them way too easy. There's no way for a Skulk or a Lurk to hide when they glow in the bloody dark. So I figure they should be able to do something such as, for official servers, force off all mods to stop making it so easy for people who want to cheat in that manner. And along with these things I don't really like, the training mode, the tutorial, if you will, because let's face it, aliens and Marines, well, especially the aliens gameplay, is incredibly complex. This is the only thing you get. These link you to outside videos that'll open up a tab and show you a video of it, but frankly, I have not found it all that informative. Such as, I figured what they could do with the tutorial side of things is they could have a list of missions, especially for commanders. The commanders need a lot of help on how to play them effectively. Rather than these, which just show you people playing them in a game, they could have, I don't know, some basic mission structures as a Skulk, like, run here, run on the wall, run on the ceiling, do some wall jumps, to an alien, to a commander telling you and teaching you how to chain cysts effectively and how to fortify positions. Because otherwise, you're just stuck having to waddle through it. And let's face it, people are not very friendly when it comes to this game. If you jump in the commander's seat and have no idea what you're doing, unless you have some very good teachers or some very friendly people, which I've yet to encounter. And I also am not a fan of this explore mode because it only lets you go through one map. The only other way to explore all the different maps available to you is to create your own server and to run around. And for the next part, I'm going to start talking about what I like and dislike about the races and themselves, but I'm going to do that during the gameplay. It's kind of hard to concentrate and play since this game requires a lot of concentration and cooperation if you want to actually stand a chance. So starting off with the aliens, the asymmetrical gameplay they have compared to the Marines is very, very interesting and very rewarding, let me say. Such as the Skulk, the first basic alien class, is very interesting the way he has to survive by climbing on walls and ceilings to ambush enemies. It takes a lot of skill to actually play one effectively, and that time when you can ambush a whole group of Marines and nom them to death is such a great feeling. It feels particularly awesome to do that, especially as a Skulk. Unfortunately, my complaints regarding the Skulk is while I like their core gameplay, as the games wear on, they become increasingly insignificant. They do not scale into the end game in any stretch. The only real power upgrade and survivability upgrade that they get is Carapace. I'm not counting regen in this regard, as that's much more for hit and run than standing and trying to fight and survive. And Carapace, while all well and good in its intentions, once Marines get weapons 1 to 2, it completely negates that bonus they have, and as Marines get more armor, it takes from 3 bites up to 5 to kill a Marine. That makes things a bit annoying for a Skull, because the way, as I said, matches progress, they just get weaker and weaker and weaker. I figured what they can do to alter this a bit is, for Skulks only, the longer game goes on, they can get some minor benefits depending on the amount of hives you have, such as, I don't know, a little more health, a little more armor, or perhaps a little more bite damage. Something to help them keep up with the Marines who, who spawn quickly, and all their upgrades make them increasingly potent, while Skulks unfortunately do not have that ability. So some minor increases as the game goes on, I feel, is about the only thing that they would really, that I feel that they would actually need. That's about the only thing I could really think of to alter the Skulks. Next, they have the chubby space hippo. The Gorge, who, I like the Gorge. The Gorge fits his role really, really well. He is a defense support class with the ability to build clogs, which restrict movement, and mini turrets, which are called Hydras, as well as heal. And I figure, and also once you get, actually, Biobomb, one of their abilities with a second hive, they can break sieges by lobbing structure-damaging bombs at enemies, which, as I said, all that fits really well. The only thing about Gorges that I think they need to work on is the Hydras. The Hydras cost 3 personal resources to spawn, and they do not provide much of a benefit in my opinion. They are weak, they don't do much damage, and if you strafe as a Marine, you can never be hit by them. So they need to do some tweaks to these things to make them worth the while. Either lower their res cost to 1, so replacing them and moving them about is not actually that harmful to the Gorge, or make them completely free, which everyone except for the Marines would like. Make the attacks from the Hydras hit scan, so there's no way to easily avoid them by going side by side. Or, if they want to keep them 3 personal res, have them inherit the traits that the Gorge takes on, such as the Gorge gets Carapace, the Hydras are harder to kill. The Gorge gets Celerity, the Hydras attack quicker. The Gorge gets Silence, they no longer make any sound, so they'll be a little bit harder to detect. Something just to make them more, make them more potent, because right now, when the Marine has no armor, they're a mild annoyance. Once they get armor 1, armor 2, they just look at them the wrong way and they die without ever worrying about them, so they need something to make them a bit of a threat, something to worry about. And those are the only changes I could think of to do with that. Next, the next alien line is my favorite, the Lurk. Right now, I feel he is at a good point. The only change I feel he could use would be since he fulfills his role as a harasser and offensive support really well. His second ability, called Spores, which lets him leave a poisonous trail behind him as he moves around, I figure he should gain the ability to spit it out over a distance so he doesn't have to put himself in way too much harm's way. Such as his number one, his weapon one is a poisonous bite and spikes. Number two I feel should be spores with primary attack, and secondary should shoot the spores out at a distance, such as, I don't know, cover a fair amount of a hallway from where he's located. I feel that's about the only thing I would change to him. What they can do to that one is make it take a large amount of energy, because you're harassing without putting any real threat to yourself, or you're providing area denial without really threatening yourself. So I figure, say the Lurk doesn't have the adrenaline evolution trait, and he has full adrenaline, and he uses this spore ability that shoots the spores out. I'd say it should drain, I don't know, maybe about 75% of that energy. That way he still has a chance to get away if he gets spotted while he's laying that down, but it doesn't make him, he doesn't have so much energy reserves that he can still continue around flying and fighting everything. And that's about the only thing I would do to a Lurk, because other than that, again, they fill their role really well. Next up is the Fade. Let us bow our heads in shame for the poor Fade, because he is not what he used to be. He does not have the potential that he used to have. Right now, he costs 50 res. He's very weak in comparison to the amount it takes him, and unless you have Blink and are really, really good, there's almost no reason to use a Fade. Right now, he starts with 250 health, 50 armor, 100 with Carapace. He can be 2-shot without Carapace, 3-shot with it by a shotgun. So a 50 res life form easily, very easily countered by a 20 res weapon on the Marine side. Does not work very well in my opinion. The things I would do with the Fade, first off, I would give him an armor buff. Maybe 100, start with 75 armor or 100 armor, and if you take Carapace, take it up to 150 or 175 for your armor. Something to give him a bit more survivability so he isn't so easily hard countered by the Marines for such a low cost. I would have him start with the Blink ability, because without Blink, no one would ever pick a Fade, because he cannot fill the role of assassination and flying everywhere to harass or kill Marines without that Blink ability. I would have him start off with the Blink ability, and if you remember in the original Natural Selection, he had an ability called the Acid Rocket, which would let him shoot out an armor damaging rocket. I would bring that back as the first researched ability. Give him the Acid Rocket, make it a much weaker version of the Bile Bomb, so he can do some long-range harass to fortified positions, much like he could in the original Natural Selection. And aside from that, he also lost the Focus Swipe, which allowed him to do a lot of damage in one burst. I think they should bring it back in a way such as, since his shift ability is Shadow Step, which lets him basically do a short teleport, I think they could, if you Shadow Step towards a guy and hold to the attack button, maybe that way they could bring it back and make it a sudden burst that takes a large amount of energy. That way he has some other way to quickly bring down a Marine at the cost of, well, a lot of energy. And those are about the only things I would do to the Fade. And lastly is the Onos, who is in a really good position. About the only one I feel is in a really good position right now. So what I feel they do is they need to bring up a lot of the things on the alien side, because from what I've noticed from my time playing, I've never seen an alien victory go by without either an incredibly lucky Skulk Rush or an Onos Rush. And those are the only two victories I've ever witnessed. I've never seen one end because a couple of people have gone Fade. I've never seen one end with some heavy harass on the Lurk side while Skulks did their thing. It's either Skulk Rush or Onus Rush. They need to do something to tweak that a bit, I feel. And aside from that, the only thing I would do is the Alien Commander, which I honestly have very little experience with because I'm positively horrendous at it. I feel it's in a fairly decent place right now, but
I don't even know if the second half
they could use, I guess, a ranged defensive turret types thing, because they have the whip, which is a melee defensive structure, which it got buffed recently and is where it should be, I feel. They should also add, I don't know, like a needler or something to assist with the ranged, because as it is right now, people still only really use whips for waste of resources rather than making them a threat, while Marines have the ability to place sentries everywhere, so, I don't know, putting some sort of ranged ability for the aliens, I don't know, I just feel would be a nice little touch on their part. And don't worry, I'm getting to the Marines. The Marines are really at a good point right now. The only issue I can really bring up with them at the moment is the shotgun is pretty much the end-all be-all to hard counters. It can one-shot a Skulk, which is perfectly fine. It can two-shot a Gorge and a Lurk, which, again, is perfectly fine. However, what I don't like is it can not only 2-3 shot a Fade, which costs 50 resources from halfway across the bloody room, but I figure what they need to do with the shotgun is either weaken the damage and increase the pellets over a wider spread, make it a bit more randomized, because I've been sniped with a shotgun halfway across a room with full health as a Lurk and a Fade far too many times than I can actually count, when there's pretty much no way at that range a shotgun should have been able to do so. And along with that, when you give them the jetpack, which only costs I believe 15 res, so that's 35 res to hard counter everything the aliens actually have at their disposal. They need to find some way to either tweak that a bit, I'd say either by making jetpacks cost a little bit more, perhaps 20 to 25 resources, or find some way to be able to ground those types of those jetpacking Marines, such as if they're trying to go through spores of a Lurk, they slow down significantly, and if they get hit with a bile bomb from a Gorge, they're unable to fly at all. You know, just some way to restrict their movement. And those are about the only things I could think of to do that. The flamethrowers on the Marines, they've already gotten a small buff, but I figure they could use, I don't know, a bit more to them. Because right now, their only real use is to burn away spores from a Lurk, and to prevent whips from actually attacking you, so you can get grenades lobbed in there in fortified positions. I feel they could use a little bit more of a damage buff, because right now, I mean, I believe just about every weapon in the Marines' arsenal can out-DPS a flamethrower, and everything on fire should stop working, such as you light a crag on fire, it stops healing. You light a shade on fire, it stops cloaking. Just give it a bit more of that effect to up the flamethrower's usefulness, because I like the flamethrower, but I never really found a need to actually use it. And lastly, exosuits. While they're great on their own, they're big, they're stompy, they do a lot of damage, they're really awesome to see. The only thing I feel is I believe you should be able to get out of the exosuit. Sort of like if an alien goes Onos, he can easily revert back to a previous life form if he so desires. Once a Marine's in an exosuit, he has no way of getting out without dying. He should be able to request to get ejected from his exosuit, and another Marine should be able to pick it up, and it should cost, I don't know, a couple team resources from the commander, or perhaps if he visits a prototype lab, he should be able to eject himself from it at a small cost of personal resources. So someone else who might know how to use an exosuit better can jump in it instead. That's about the only change I would do there, and that's really about the only things I could think of at the moment regarding this game. I can't say too much about the commander for the Marines, but I feel he has, everything he needs at his disposal, and no real changes need to be made. And lastly, as you probably know by now, I judge games by a 1-to-1 basis, $1 hour of entertainment per dollar spent. This game cost me $25. I've been playing it for over 50 hours at the time of this recording, so that is a very good ratio, and I intend to keep on playing it, so I highly, highly recommend this game. So that pretty much finishes up my thoughts. So thank you guys very much for watching. Shalom, and until next time.